What if I told you that you could whiten your teeth safely at home for about $3, using 2 ingredients you probably already have sitting in your kitchen right now? No expensive trays, no UV lights, no jaw pain, no sensitivity that makes you wince every time you sip your morning coffee. Just 2 simple, cheap ingredients that actually work. Here's the thing. Most people don't realize that the professional whitening treatments dentists offer can use hydrogen peroxide concentrations as high as 40%, blasted with UV or LED lights directly onto your teeth and gums. And yes, your teeth might look whiter when you walk out, but a lot of people also walk out with real pain, serious sensitivity, and irritated gums that take days to settle down. You're paying hundreds of dollars for that experience. Today, I'm going to show you a gentler, safer alternative that costs around $3 total. I'll walk you through exactly what to use, how to mix it, how often to use it, and why it works, without damaging your enamel or hurting your gums. And I'll also share a couple of bonus tips for your overall gum health that most people have never heard of. So stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll have everything you need to start seeing results from your own bathroom, on your own schedule, without spending a fortune. Let's start with the problem, because if you're watching this video, chances are you already know what it feels like to look in the mirror and wish your teeth were just a little bit whiter. Maybe it's the coffee you have every morning, or the tea you drink every afternoon. Maybe it's the occasional glass of red wine, or simply the fact that teeth naturally yellow a little as we get older. It's one of those things that creeps up on you slowly, and then one day you notice it in a photo or under a bright light and it bothers you more than you expected. So what do most people do? They head to the pharmacy and pick up a pack of whitening strips. And those aren't cheap. You're usually looking at $20 to $40 for a decent pack. You follow the instructions, you wear them for the recommended time, and the results are fine. Maybe a shade or 2 lighter. Maybe. But they don't last long. And before you know it, you're buying another pack. It adds up fast. Then there's the other option, going to your dentist for a professional whitening treatment. And look, dentists are great. But professional whitening can cost anywhere from a few $100s to over $1,000, depending on where you live and what treatment you choose. For a lot of people, that's simply not realistic. And here's what makes it even harder to swallow. Professional whitening isn't without its risks. The treatments dentists use often contain hydrogen peroxide in very high concentrations, sometimes as high as 40%, and that's combined with UV or LED lights that activate the bleaching process. Now, that sounds impressive, and it does work quickly. But what those high concentrations can also do is temporarily dehydrate your teeth, which makes the enamel more porous and sensitive. A lot of people experience sharp tooth sensitivity for days after the treatment. Some people have gum irritation or even minor chemical burns on their gum tissue from the peroxide. You pay a lot of money, and you spend the next few days avoiding hot drinks and cold air because your teeth are screaming at you. That doesn't sound like a great deal to me, and honestly, it doesn't have to be that way. Because the ingredient that actually does the whitening work, hydrogen peroxide, is available to everyone, at a fraction of the concentration, for almost nothing. And when you use it correctly and safely, it can give you real results without any of that pain or that price tag. That's exactly what I'm going to show you next. So let's talk about the 2 ingredients at the heart of this method, because once you understand what they are and why they work, you'll feel completely confident using them. There's no mystery here, no complicated chemistry, and nothing you need to order online. Both of these are sitting on the shelves of your local pharmacy or supermarket right now, and together they'll cost you about $3 total. The first ingredient is baking soda. You probably already have this in your kitchen. Most people do. But what a lot of people don't realize is that baking soda has been used for oral care for a very long time, and there's a good reason for that. It works as a mild abrasive, which means it has a gentle scrubbing action that physically lifts and removes surface stains from your teeth, the kind left behind by coffee, tea, and food over time. It also helps remove plaque, which is that soft, sticky film that builds up on teeth and can dull their appearance. And because baking soda is slightly alkaline, it may help neutralize the acids in your mouth that contribute to enamel erosion. The key word here is gentle. Baking soda's abrasive level is well within the safe range for enamel when used correctly and in moderation. It's scrubbing the stains, not your enamel. The second ingredient is 3% hydrogen peroxide. This is the small brown bottle you'll find in the first aid section of any pharmacy, usually priced at around $1 to $2. And this is where the real whitening magic happens. Hydrogen peroxide is an oxidizing agent, which simply means that when it comes into contact with stain molecules on your teeth, it releases oxygen that breaks apart the chemical bonds holding those stains together. Once those bonds are broken, the stains essentially dissolve and fade. It's the same active ingredient used in professional whitening treatments at the dentist. The critical difference is the concentration. Now, I want to be really clear about this part, because it matters. You must only ever use 3% hydrogen peroxide for this method, or lower. That's it. You might look at a higher concentration and think that more is better, that it'll work faster or give you whiter results. But that's not how it works. Higher concentrations don't give you better whitening, they give you more risk. They are more likely to irritate your gums, more likely to cause sensitivity, and more likely to damage your enamel over time. The dentist uses 40% with special equipment and protective barriers for your gums precisely because it's so strong. We're using 3%, and that's a deliberate and smart choice, not a compromise. So to recap before we move on, baking soda gently scrubs the surface stains away, and 3% hydrogen peroxide breaks down the deeper stain molecules from the inside. Together, they work as a simple, affordable, and genuinely effective team. And if you're new to this channel and you're finding this useful, now is a great time to hit that subscribe button. I share straightforward, honest health tips just like this every single week. Alright, so now let's get into the actual recipe, and I promise this is as simple as it gets. You don't need any special equipment, you don't need to measure anything precisely, and the whole process from mixing to rinsing takes less than 5 minutes. Let me walk you through it step by step. To make the paste, you'll need 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 3 drops of 3% hydrogen peroxide, and 8 drops of water. That's it. Add everything into a small bowl or even just the palm of your hand, and mix it together until it forms a smooth, consistent paste. You're looking for something that's thick enough to stay on your toothbrush without sliding off, but not so dry and clumpy that it feels gritty and rough. If it feels too thick, add 1 or 2 more drops of water. If it's too runny, add a tiny pinch more baking soda. It takes about 10 seconds to get right, and after the first time you'll know exactly what you're going for. Now, before you pick up your toothbrush, I want to say something important, and I really mean this. Please use a soft bristled toothbrush for this. Not medium, not firm. Soft. The baking soda already provides a gentle scrubbing action, and if you combine that with a hard brush and heavy pressure, you risk being too aggressive on your enamel. The goal here is to be kind to your teeth, not to sand them down. Gentleness is what makes this method safe. Apply the paste to your toothbrush and begin brushing using small, gentle, circular motions. Focus on the front surfaces of your teeth, the parts that are most visible when you smile, because that's where surface stains tend to accumulate the most. Don't scrub hard. Don't press hard. Think of it less like scrubbing a dirty pan and more like polishing something delicate. Let the ingredients do the work, not the pressure. Brush for 1 to 2 minutes, no more than that. You don't need to go longer, and going longer doesn't give you better results. It just increases the chance of being too rough on your enamel over time. When your 2 minutes are up, rinse your mouth thoroughly with water. Make sure you rinse well. Swish it around, spit it out, and rinse again. You don't want to leave any residue sitting on your teeth or gums. And just to be clear, don't swallow any of it. The amounts here are tiny and not dangerous if a trace amount is accidentally swallowed. But this is something you rinse out completely, not something you ingest. After rinsing, if you want to go ahead and brush with your regular toothpaste as you normally would, that's absolutely fine. Some people like to do that. Some people don't bother. Either way works. Now let's talk about how often to use this, because this is where a lot of people go wrong. More is not better here. You should use this paste 2 to 3 times per week, not every single day. Baking soda, even though it's gentle, is still an abrasive, and using it daily over a long period of time could gradually wear at your enamel. Spacing it out gives your teeth time to remineralize and stay strong between uses. Think of it like a treatment you do a few times a week rather than a replacement for your regular toothpaste. And when it comes to results, I want to be honest with you, because I think you deserve a straight answer rather than an exaggerated promise. This method works gradually. You are not going to look in the mirror the next morning and see a dramatic transformation. What you can realistically expect is a noticeable improvement over 2 to 4 weeks of consistent use. Many people start to see their teeth looking a shade or two brighter within the first couple of weeks, and the results continue to build from there. The whitening happens slowly and steadily, which is actually a sign that it's working gently, the way it should. This is the honest trade-off between this method and professional whitening. The dentist can give you faster results, yes, but at a much higher cost and with a real risk of sensitivity and discomfort. This method takes a little longer, but it's safe, it's affordable, and you can do it from your own bathroom on your own schedule. For most people, that's a trade-off that makes a lot of sense. One last thing before we move on. If you have sensitive teeth already, or if you know you have thin enamel or any active gum issues, Please have a quick conversation with your dentist before starting this. This is a gentle method, but everyone's mouth is different, and your dentist knows your specific situation better than anyone. There's no shame in checking first. That's just being smart about your health. Drop a comment below and let me know if you're going to give this a try. I genuinely read every comment, and I'd love to hear how it goes for you. So by now you know what the ingredients are and how to use them, but I want to take a few minutes to explain why this method is genuinely safer for your gums and enamel, because I think it's important that you understand the reasoning behind it, not just take my word for it. And the best way to explain it is to put this method directly side by side with what happens during a professional whitening treatment. When you go to a dentist for whitening, the first thing they do is place a protective barrier over your gums to shield them from what's about to be applied to your teeth. That alone should tell you something. They are protecting your gums because the concentration of hydrogen peroxide they're using is strong enough to cause real irritation and damage to soft tissue if it makes contact. Then they apply the whitening gel, which, as I mentioned earlier, can contain hydrogen peroxide at concentrations anywhere from 15% all the way up to 40%, directly onto your teeth. After that, they shine a UV or LED light onto it to activate and accelerate the bleaching process. The whole thing is fast and powerful, and yes, it produces quick visible results. But here's what's happening underneath that fast result. At those high concentrations, hydrogen peroxide doesn't just break down stain molecules, it also draws moisture out of your teeth. This is called dehydration of the enamel, and it's actually one of the main reasons your teeth look so bright immediately after a professional treatment. Dehydrated enamel appears whiter and more opaque. But it's also more porous, more fragile, and significantly more sensitive in the hours and days that follow. That's why so many people experience that sharp, shooting sensitivity after professional whitening, the kind that makes drinking cold water or breathing in cool air genuinely painful. It's not a side effect that affects a small number of unlucky people. It's a very common response to high-concentration peroxide, and it happens because the treatment, while effective, is quite aggressive on the tooth structure. On top of that, even with the protective barriers dentists use, gum irritation is still a relatively common complaint after professional whitening. High-concentration peroxide is simply harsh on soft tissue, and any small contact with the gums, even brief, can cause redness, tenderness, or a mild chemical burn that takes a few days to heal. Again, this isn't rare. It's a known and accepted side effect of a treatment that prioritizes speed and dramatic results over gentleness. Now contrast all of that with what's happening when you use the 3% method at home. The concentration of hydrogen peroxide is so much lower that it simply doesn't have the power to dehydrate your teeth or strip moisture from your enamel in the same way. It works more slowly and more gently, releasing oxygen gradually to break down stain molecules without aggressively pulling moisture out of your tooth structure. Your teeth stay hydrated, which means they stay strong and far less prone to sensitivity. Most people who use this method regularly report little to no sensitivity at all, and that's not a coincidence. It's a direct result of keeping the concentration low and the approach gentle. The same logic applies to your gums. At 3%, hydrogen peroxide is mild enough that even if a small amount of the paste touches your gum line during brushing, which it naturally will, it's not going to cause irritation or damage to healthy gum tissue. In fact, very diluted hydrogen peroxide has actually been studied for its mild antibacterial properties in the mouth, and at low concentrations it's considered safe for regular contact with soft tissue. That's a completely different picture from what happens at 40%. And as for the baking soda, its safety really comes down to how you use it. Baking soda has what's called a low relative dentin abrasivity score, which is just a technical way of saying that it's ranked as one of the gentler abrasives you can use on teeth. Used 2 to 3 times a week with a soft brush and light pressure, it polishes away surface stains without scratching or thinning your enamel. It's when people use it every single day with heavy pressure and a hard brush that problems can develop over time. Follow the guidance I gave you in the last section, gentle, a few times a week, soft brush, and your enamel is in good hands. The honest summary is this: professional whitening is faster. And there are situations where it makes sense, particularly if you have very stubborn or deep staining and you want rapid results. But for the vast majority of people who simply want their teeth to look cleaner, brighter, and healthier over time, this $3 method offers a safe, sensible, and surprisingly effective path to get there, without putting your enamel or your gums through anything they don't need to go through. Now I want to share something that goes a little deeper than just whitening, because honestly, the color of your teeth is only one part of the picture. If your gums aren't healthy, no amount of whitening is going to give you a truly healthy mouth. So let me share a couple of bonus tips and some information that I think is genuinely worth knowing, not to scare you, but because understanding this stuff can make a real difference to your health in ways that go far beyond your smile. The first bonus tip is oil pulling, and if you haven't heard of it before, bear with me, because it sounds a little strange at first, but it has some real merit behind it. The practice is simple. You take about 1 tablespoon of coconut oil, put it in your mouth, and swish it around gently for somewhere between 10 and 20 minutes, ideally first thing in the morning before you eat or drink anything. Then you spit it out into a bin, not the sink, because coconut oil solidifies at room temperature and will eventually clog your drains. After that, rinse your mouth with water and carry on with your normal brushing routine as usual. Now, why coconut oil specifically? Coconut oil contains a fatty acid called lauric acid, which has well-documented antibacterial and anti-inflammatory properties. When you swish the oil around your mouth for that extended period of time, it works almost like a cleanser, moving through the gaps between your teeth and along the gum line, picking up bacteria and debris in the process. Some studies have found that regular oil pulling can help reduce the bacteria responsible for plaque buildup, and many people find it noticeably helps with bad breath as well. There's also some research suggesting it may help reduce gingivitis, which is the early stage of gum disease characterized by inflammation, tenderness, and bleeding when you brush. It's not a miracle cure, and it's not a replacement for brushing and flossing. But as an addition to your routine, it's a genuinely useful one. And it costs almost nothing. Now let's talk about gum health more broadly, because this is where things get really interesting, and really important. Most people think of bleeding gums as a minor inconvenience. You brush your teeth, you notice a little pink in the sink, and you move on with your day without giving it much thought. But bleeding gums are actually worth paying attention to, because they are telling you something. When your gums bleed, even just a little, it means there's a small break in the tissue, a tiny open wound, essentially. And that break in the barrier between your mouth and your bloodstream is more significant than most people realize. Your gums are designed to act as a seal. They are supposed to form a tight, protective barrier that keeps the bacteria living naturally in your mouth, and there are a lot of them, contained within your mouth where they belong. But when that barrier is compromised through bleeding or inflammation, those bacteria have a pathway. They can enter your bloodstream directly through those small breaks in the gum tissue. And once bacteria are in the bloodstream, they can travel, and research has found that this matters in some pretty significant ways. Studies have found associations between chronic gum disease and the buildup of arterial plaque, the kind that narrows blood vessels and raises the risk of heart disease and stroke. The thinking is that oral bacteria circulating in the blood can trigger inflammatory responses in blood vessel walls, contributing to that plaque formation over time. This isn't a fringe idea, it's a connection that mainstream medical and dental research has been exploring seriously for a number of years now. And more recently, researchers have also begun looking at possible links between oral bacteria and brain health, with some studies finding traces of bacteria commonly found in the mouth in the brain tissue of people with Alzheimer's disease. The research here is still developing and we should be careful not to overstate it, but it's enough to make the point that what's happening in your mouth doesn't stay in your mouth. And here's one more connection that I think is really underappreciated, the relationship between sugar, vitamin C, and your gum health. Most people know that sugar is bad for teeth because it feeds the bacteria that cause cavities. But there's another way sugar affects your gums that most people have never heard of. Sugar and vitamin C actually compete for the same absorption pathway in your body. When your blood sugar spikes, after eating sweets, processed food, sugary drinks, your cells prioritize absorbing glucose, and vitamin C absorption gets crowded out. The problem with that is that vitamin C is absolutely essential for producing collagen, and collagen is the structural protein that keeps your gum tissue firm, strong, and intact. When your body isn't getting enough usable vitamin C, gum collagen begins to weaken. The gums become softer, more fragile, and more prone to bleeding, even with gentle brushing. So if you've noticed that your gums bleed easily and you can't quite figure out why, it's worth looking at your sugar intake alongside your vitamin C intake. Eating more vitamin C-rich foods, things like bell peppers, citrus fruits, kiwi, and strawberries, while cutting back on added sugar is one of the simplest and most overlooked things you can do for your gum health. And healthier gums mean a stronger barrier, less bleeding, and ultimately a healthier mouth and body overall. The big takeaway from this section is that your oral health and your overall health are connected in ways that most people simply aren't aware of. Taking care of your gums, through good brushing habits, something like oil pulling, watching your sugar intake, and making sure you're getting enough vitamin C, isn't just about having a nice smile. It's about protecting your body from the inside out. And if you found this section interesting and want to go deeper on the topic of gum health and what your mouth can tell you about your overall well-being, I have a full video on exactly that. I'll link it at the end of this one so you can go straight to it. So let's bring everything together, because we've covered a lot of ground in this video and I want to make sure you're walking away with everything you need to actually take action on this. You started this video knowing that yellow or stained teeth are a frustrating and very common problem. You now know that the expensive solutions, the whitening strips, the professional dentist treatments, come with real drawbacks. The strips are overpriced for the results they deliver, and professional whitening, while fast, uses hydrogen peroxide concentrations so high that they can dehydrate your enamel, trigger painful sensitivity, and irritate your gums. You're paying a lot of money for a result that often comes with a side of discomfort. And you now have a genuine alternative. 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 3 drops of 3% hydrogen peroxide, 8 drops of water, mixed into a paste, brushed gently for 1 to 2 minutes, 2 to 3 times a week. That's it. The baking soda gently lifts and scrubs away surface stains. The hydrogen peroxide breaks down the deepest stain molecules by releasing oxygen, and together they work gradually and safely to brighten your smile without putting your enamel or your gums at risk. The whole thing costs about $3, it takes less than 5 minutes, and you can do it from your own bathroom starting tonight. On top of that, you now know that adding oil pulling with coconut oil to your morning routine can help reduce harmful bacteria, ease gum inflammation, and freshen your breath in a way that's natural and backed by real research. You know that bleeding gums aren't something to brush off, they are a signal worth paying attention to, because the health of your gums has a genuine connection to the health of your heart and your brain. And you know that something as simple as reducing your sugar intake and eating more vitamin C-rich foods can meaningfully strengthen your gum tissue and help stop that bleeding at its root cause. None of this is complicated. None of it is expensive. It's just honest, practical information that I genuinely believe can make a real difference to your health, and I hope it does for you. Give the whitening paste a try, be consistent with it, be patient, and be gentle. Results come with time, and the fact that they come slowly is exactly what makes this method safe. Many people see a noticeable difference within 2 to 4 weeks, and the best part is that you're achieving those results without doing any harm along the way. I do want to say one more time, if you have sensitive teeth, diagnosed gum disease, or any concerns about your dental health, please have a conversation with your dentist before adding anything new to your routine. This method is gentle and suitable for most people, but your dentist knows your mouth specifically, and that conversation is always worth having. This video is here to inform and empower you, not to replace professional advice. Now I'd love to hear from you. Are you going to try this? Have you tried baking soda or oil pulling before and noticed a difference? Leave a comment below and tell me about it. I read every single comment and I genuinely enjoy hearing your experiences. If you found this video helpful, a like goes a long way. It helps this information reach more people who might really need it, and it only takes a second. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is a great time. I put out honest, straightforward health and wellness content every week, and I'd love to have you as part of this community. Your mouth is the gateway to your body. Take care of it, treat it gently, and don't let anyone convince you that you need to spend a fortune to have a healthy, bright smile. The best solutions are often the simplest ones, and sometimes they really do cost just $3. I'll see you in the next one.